Hey cousins, so someone wanted me to speak about my sober. I've been sober for like a year. I've never been an alcoholic, so let me just elaborate that. I've never been an alcoholic, but when I got into fitness, doing bodybuilding competitions, I didn't drink as much, but I was a social drinker. So, I've been drinking since I was 4 years old. I think the most I've gotten is tipsy. I've always been like a social drinker, but of course my 20s, I've always been like a social drinker. So I've never been like an alcoholic, like a heavy drinker. When I was a baby, I love my dad, by the way. I love my dad, so this is no shade to him. And I actually like this. They say if you give a baby, like a toddler, when they're young, if you let them taste beer, they won't like it as they get older. That happened to me. I would drink a little beer when I was a toddler. Yeah, I was a toddler when I drank a little beer. And when I got to college and high school, I hated the smell of beer. I just could not stand the smell. Yeah, my dad rocks, by the way. My dad is handsome and he rocks, okay? I was born and raised in a town right next to Lynchburg, Tennessee. And Jack Daniels was there. Jack Daniels originated, was pretty much 15 minutes from where I lived at. So my mom, she would get her Jack Daniels. And of course, around the square in Lynchburg, they would have Jack Daniels brownies I would eat as a kid. Just Jack Daniels everything. So I grew up around Jack Daniels a lot as a kid. And my mom also had Crown Royal. And when I was between 10 and 12 years old, I know I was a kid, I would sneak in the living room where she had it. So my mom would have Crown Royal in the living room as a decoration, and sometimes I would drink out of it between the ages of 9 and 12, and sometimes I would have a friend come over and we would sneak and drink the Crown Royal as kids. Guess what else I did as a kid? This has nothing to do with alcohol, by the way. So one more thing I got to tell y'all as a kid, when I was less than 6 years old, between the ages of 3 and 6, my step-grandfather in Tennessee, he would do tobacco. He would dip snuff or whatever, and he would put it in his jaw and his, in front of his teeth or behind his teeth or whatever, and just spit it out. I forgot what you call that, but I used to do that with him. So yeah, I would ask my granddaddy, I was like, can you give me some tobacco? And I would dip like my grandfather. I would put the tobacco in my mouth and I would spit it out because I thought that was so cool as a kid. I was like, I want to do what my step-grandfather's doing. So yeah, I used to dip tobacco when I was like between the ages of 3 and 6. And I would sit on the front. I think I was around that age. But yeah, I used to do tobacco, chew tobacco with my step-grandfather. And that was actually fun. And I smoked, another thing I did as a kid, when I was 9 years old, I will never forget the age I did this, but when I was 9, my relative left a cigarette on the table while they were talking outside in the back with my mom. And I ended up trying, I was like, is this something that I might want to do? So I tried the cigarette and the smoke blew through my nose. And I remember I'm a kid. And I smoked my first cigarette at 9 years old, and that was also my last cigarette. So I've never been addicted to cigarettes. Like I said, I tried it as a kid when I wasn't even supposed to be doing that. My mom found that at the time. She would have spanked me. She would have gave me a whooping. But yeah, that was never cigarettes, weed, never an addiction of mine. I was more like a social drinker. I've never been like an alcoholic. I would never get like pissy drunk and not knowing where I am. I would always drink enough to where my head would if I started buzzing or if my head started to hurt, I stopped. Like I was never, and I love fruity drinks. So I was the type of person, I like the girly drinks. I like the martinis, the apple martinis, the watermelon martinis. I was that type of person. I like those type of drinks. The best beer I've had is like German beer, like the flavored beer when I lived in California. But I'm not big on beer. I don't like the way it smells. And I've also been I'm a wine. I used to be, I was really into wine as well, like sweet wine, like the red sweet wine. I would get the wine at the nail shops when I got my nails done. Like they would give you a complimentary glass of wine and I would enjoy that. The people that inspired me to stop drinking was Chili from TLC. I love TLC, by the way. And also April Jones. Those two women inspired me to stop drinking because when I looked at how beautiful, everybody looks different. I know I'll never look beautiful like these women, but both of them are gorgeous women, and I saw the way their skin glowed. They looked all hydrated. They inspired me to stop drinking alcohol. And I was like, man, I need to get my life together. Even though I'm not an alcoholic, like I said, I've never been addicted to alcohol. Like never been addicted to alcohol. Like I can go without drinking. And I asked myself, I'm like, why am I drinking? Like really why? Just to loosen up, And also what inspired me to stop drinking is the aging process, because we all get old, by the way. I would compare the women that don't drink alcohol to the women that do drink alcohol. And I noticed the women that drank alcohol, they actually looked older. They look more dehydrated. And it's not about looks. Doing bodybuilding competitions. I remember when I did a Jersey show and I was backstage. I'll never forget this. And I was nervous. I was very nervous at the Jersey show backstage, and a girl was drinking wine. And she says, oh, you're nervous? You want some wine? Because that'll loosen you up. And so I don't like drinking after people, but she got me some wine in a cup, and I drank some wine backstage before I stepped on stage. And I was a little more looser and stuff, doing bodybuilding competitions and stuff. I've had coaches and stuff, to tell me, drink some wine before the night of the show. And I used to do that as well. I would drink alcohol the night before a show or before I got on stage. You're asking, what is the alcohol supposed to do? The alcohol the night before the show is supposed to dry you out. It's supposed to dry you out, make you look a little bit more leaner and everything. Make the abs pop, make the muscles more dried out so you can look more pumped on stage. You know what I'm saying? So that's what the alcohol is supposed to do. Another thing I would do, for shows and everything after a show or after I won. A lot of us do this in the bodybuilding industry. After we win a show, we celebrate, drink some alcohol, throw up some bowls, and we just get crunk and crazy and just drink because we have spent so much time prepping and not eating what we want, having rice cakes backstage, eating asparagus and fish the last week, a peak week. So we have went through a lot. So a lot of us, we celebrate with alcohol after a show is done, or even after. If you won a show, you really go all out to a bar after, or a nice restaurant. So yeah, I would do that after shows. I would drink alcohol and just throw it up with my friends and party. I think that was the hardest part about dropping alcohol, was after doing my show. It was kind of like a sadness, like, man, I'm quitting alcohol, but I wanted, because it's kind of like, that was my post-show ritual, is to drink, some wine or some kind of martini afterward. But this time I didn't do it this year, and it was like an emptiness inside of me. I was like, man, maybe I was addicted in a way, but not like crazy addicted, because that used to be my thing. After shows, I would get not all the shows, I would be lying. So I didn't drink alcohol after every show I did. But it was most of the shows I did, I had a drink and everything, a drink or two. And so when I started doing shows, I think my first show I didn't drink alcohol. My very first show, the OCB show, I didn't drink alcohol afterward. I was still trying to learn the industry. Doing bodybuilding shows before this year, I would drink like 2 to 3 times a year. That's all. Of course I drank with my family. I would have drinks with my family during the holidays. And let me tell you, honey, y'all, my brother Alex is lethal with the drinks. That boy can make a drink. My brother he's got my dad's touch when it comes to food and drinks, and he's like a sin because his stuff is so good. My brother's drinks are so good. He should be a bartender for real. So yeah, I'm a non-drinker. Chili from TLC, she said it best. She calls it the devil's juice, and I'm like, man, that is a perfect word to describe alcohol, the devil's juice. So yeah, so cousin Chili, that is the word, and that's what I call it now, the devil's juice. I don't drink alcohol at all. So I'm, if you want to go on a date with me, I might be boring because I'm not going to drink. I'll drink water, and I'm talking about in a bottle. I'm not trying to get into drinking alcohol. I stay away from it, and I try to avoid going places that would tempt me to drink.